Hello and welcome to another response video, this time in response to Taking 20's Illusion of Choice Breaking It Down video. In this response video, I'm going to be going over most of the concepts and subjects that were mentioned in that video. Just a quick disclaimer, I will not be placing segments of his video in this video, because I do not want people to make assumptions out of context. It is important to hear someone out entirely before you, as a listener, draw your own conclusions as well. So before listening to this response, I highly encourage you to watch his video, link in the description and up here as well. So, this is my response in terms of most of the, again, I think 90% of these are rules as written versus rules as written kind of thing. You'll know what I'm talking about here. So the players we know nothing about. You're talking about your players being attacked and being targeted. I'm gonna play a little devil's advocate here. People can only go off of the evidence presented. I think had you start with a video like this one, and what I'm referring to is a more like, I know that YouTube algorithm doesn't like longer videos, but a longer video explaining like the one you had here, I think was there was more to there was more time to understand things and draw conclusions or seek understanding or seek your perspective. And I think that the 14-minute video kind of didn't do it much justice in terms of your perspective in this video was far, far, far more put together than the other video. So I'm just going to say that. And again, in regards to your players being targeted specifically, because I know that I pretty much went ham on the druid, laughing that he didn't have any choices and all these things. Well, the thing was, in your video, you had painted the druid as being bored because they were getting bored turning into dinosaurs and dragons just to claw things over and over again. And I think what that kind of conveys, you have to understand the tone you had when you said that. It kind of gave the Richie Rich issue is kind of what I call it. I don't have many choices. And then, if you've seen the movie Richie Rich, is a VHS type of film, which I'm sure you've seen. The kid complains about not having many choices to eat, and when he goes out of his room, there's McDonald's in there, Burger King over there, Chick-fil-A down this. I don't know if Chick-fil-A. You get my point. He had plenty of restaurants to choose from and all that, and that's the kind of vibe it gave off, and so that's what I think tone was a lot of that, and just the delivery of the message. In terms of people coming at you for be more creative, Cody, be more creative. Again, the way I see it, I don't think creativity is the issue. I don't feel that way. I think that modification in a game like Pathfinder is the solution to those kind of problems. If the players are struggling or they don't find it tough enough, which I think is rarely the case in Age of Ashes so far from what I've played or what I've GM'd. I think modifying the content, I don't think there's any reason to that. I don't think anyone's out here poking fingers at the designers, or at least I'm not, and I hope most of the rest of the community isn't. Keyboard warriors will always be keyboard warriors. But I think, again, I don't think you need to create or remake the content because creating or remaking the content in such a number-tight system could actually end up being the reason you TPK or makes the fight way too easy. Again, not full-on substituting mobs and creatures, things like that, but, making it a weak creature, making something elite, and then getting rid of a creature, things like that. I think those are, in terms of encounter design, might be a better solution. The feat system, I will get to that here. And I'm trying to do this in order as best as I can here. The feat system you mentioned, I will go over that when we get to the character creation portion of the video, because I think it's a lot better for that section of the video. Next, we have the attack of opportunity mentioned. Because, you'd said, no one wanted to talk about how attack of opportunity had changed the game. I had discussed it in my video on how much attack of opportunity has changed the game. I said I believe that mobility has drastically changed combat. Even in Dungeons and Dragons 3.5, first edition Pathfinder, the 5-foot step, or in second edition Pathfinder, step, I think it's made a huge impact on being able to avoid certain situations that would be, just too dangerous to try and get out of normally. And not everyone having it, I think, is... I think it's I hate to use the word realistic, because realistic can... it's a fantasy game, right? The way I kind of think of it is, you would see, when you think of Lord of the Rings, you think of Gandalf, Gimli, Aragorn, Legolas, right? It'd be very easy to imagine Legolas, Gimli, Aragorn having an attack of opportunity, where Gandalf, he uses a sword, like there's no question about that, but is not someone who is as martially adept and would have those kind of capabilities, or even want to pursue having those kind of capabilities. I think having the choice to have it, and this is kind of to go on what you were talking about, which I think I do cover later, but there only being, I believe, 44, and that's including of the same type of some of the same family of creatures or type of creatures, in terms of not everyone having an attack of opportunity. If most of the creatures don't have attack of opportunity, again, the game is balanced out so that not all martial classes, or not all caster class, or not all classes have those attack of opportunities. Ranger has it, fighter has it, champion can get it. Let me think. I think barbarian can even get. I don't know. I have to fact. The point is that not everyone has attack of opportunity, or some people have a different functioning type of attack of opportunity, like the opportunistic riposte with the swashbuckler has, and things like that. I think that's an interesting, variant of, or a different take on attack of opportunity that Paizo was designing. So if most of the creatures don't get attack of opportunity, most classes or most players shouldn't have access to attack of opportunity, especially if their classes aren't geared towards that type of fighting. So that's enough of that, though. 5e's solution to this is disengage, in terms of being able to move out or avoid attack of opportunity, or as 5e calls it, opportunity attack. What I kind of find really unfortunate is, because of how the interact, or how the action, the interact action functions, is, let's say you get into a situation where you suffered a great amount of damage and you need to pull out. Well, granted, opportunity attack doesn't function the same when someone uses an interact action. Again, please correct me if I'm wrong on that. In terms of 5e, you could just sit there and chug a potion right there. But the interact action is, if you don't have it on you, like right on your person, it was in your bag, the interact action in 5th edition, you would have to interact with the bag, and that's your action. Now, most GMs would say, if you use your bonus action, you could swing it back real quick, or you can use reaction, swing it back, or all those things. But again, rules as written, because what we're talking about here, rules as written doesn't technically allow you to do that. You can't, as far as I know. Again, it's been a while since I've read up on the rules for 5e, but as far as I know, you can't substitute your move action to take that drink of the potion or anything like that. So again, in those kind of situations, I'm not saying that's always the situation, but in those kind of situations that do happen, where, you take a massive amount of damage and you're about to die and you just got to get it out of there. The actions provided to you are disengage, move away, and that's it. You or move away, hope you don't get hit, or if you get hit by a normal attack, it doesn't take you down. And even if you interact, by rules as written, you couldn't drink that potion. And that's a shame. Where in 5th edition, it's like step, interact, consume. And that's if you don't have a bandolier. Step, bandolier, same action, consume. And it's, again, I'm not saying more options because we're not talking about that now. Right? So next we have the spells, the spell slots, and downcasting. I went out of my way to break down or to find all the spells that have multiple action variants or different results based on how many actions you use. So the first 4 here we have that we're going to discuss are Harm, Heal, Magic Missile, Magic Stone. So Harm. Harm is actually one of the deadlier spells in the game. It doesn't seem like it would be, right? Because, well, if I'm playing back with a cleric and I'm using those, I gotta use 2 actions just to do D8 stacking because it doesn't, unlike heal, if you add another action for the 2 action variant, you don't get more damage. It only heals the undead, right? So where this is interesting is the clerics, people that can cast harm, they have the option, where, one of the common things that's complained about 2nd edition Pathfinder is the multiple attack penalty, right? Well, when you have a touch spell, there's no attack roll, so you don't suffer the multiple attack penalty. So as a war priest, or even a cloister cleric, or an oracle, or even a sorcerer, if you're feeling gutsy enough, you get up there and, you can touch, single action touch. It's the same damage, same save. And that's, or a war priest, or if you're just up there, you attack. Oh my gosh, I actually got my 2nd hit. Sweet touch, right? Harm. And it's not the most amazing damage, but I mean, like I said, it's moderate damage and it's pretty decent, right? So it's, and with, most of the time you're not going to be using AoE harm because of your friends. So obviously, the complaint there could be that the reaction heal is useless, and that's not always the case. But again, it's very seldomly a great or most obvious option. I'll use your terminology, Cody. So with heal, I feel like it's a great spell in terms of having options that feel right. So it's have I seen players use a single action heal? Yes. And the game, I wouldn't say rewards you for doing so, because obviously, you get more healing. The most obvious choice is the 2 action. I'm not going to debate that with you. But because of how being knocked unconscious works and the wounding condition and dying state and all that stuff, sometimes you just need to heal them. You don't need to full raw power heal somebody, especially if you feel like that might draw the attention of an enemy or, things like that. And again, that there's, you can argue semantics about that all day. And then we have Magic Missile. Now, I'm not going to argue this spell. This spell is a pretty cut and straight, along with Magic Stone. With Magic Stone, the more stones you imbue, there's more stones that have the thing. And with Magic Missile, more darts, more damage. Numerically, it's a no-brainer, right? So these are 2 spells that I at least feel need to be, especially Magic Missile. These spells should be used when you're set, like in terms of like, in a combat scenario. You should use the Magic Missile when you're set up to use it, not just because it's available. And of course, again, I'm not going to argue over semantics here. Of course, you want to use it 3 actions, but you have the option to not do that. But of course, why wouldn't you? Now, I'm going to go ahead and go into the other 11 spells here. I'm just going to, post them all over here. You have Aberrant Whiskers, Fairy Dust, Heal Animal, Heal Companion, Heroic Feat, Key Blast, Rebuke Death, Spellmaster's Ward, Spirit Object, Swamp of Sloth, and Warped Terrain. Now, what are the differences between all these spells and the ones we just went over? You had specifically talked about downcasting and how that wasn't done, and how spell slots were too, using a whole spell slot, even if it wasn't to its best ability, was too punishing, right? Well, all 11 of these spells are focus spells, meaning that you're not really losing anything. Like, yeah, you're losing a focus point, but a focus point isn't a spell slot. So I feel like that's not as punishing. Now, again, let's go back to Harm, Heal, Magic Missile, Magic Stone. I think Harm is best used with a single action. You're going to be using it if you need to maintain that distance. And again, that's up to how you've built your character. And if you're building a more cloistered cleric or someone who wants to stay back, you've chosen to stay back, and that's what you've chosen to do, and that's fine. And there are things around that, or just there are just systematic understandings you have to have when you've chosen to build your character as such. Excuse me. So my solution to you here is, or there are solutions in the game for you. Scrolls, staves, wands, especially with Magic Missile. Scrolls are super cheap to craft and create, or buy, depending on settlements and things like that. Chances are, if you're a wizard or someone that's int focused, you should definitely invest in, even if you're not going to master, crafting certain things, like being able to craft like scrolls of magic. Like I said, having scrolls of magic, you can just have a wand of Magic Missile, and you just pull out that Magic Missile wand when it's that moment. You're set up, and you're like, sweet. So this, obviously you're gonna say, oh, well, it takes the interact action to take it out. Yes, it does. So that, the turn before it, you're, boom, you cast your 1 action spell or your 2 action spell, and then you move, shield, take the wand out. Next turn, you shoot that thing off, right? Like there's, again, there are certain spells and abilities and things like that you just need to be set up for. And when you're set up for, when you have those opportunities, you just take advantage of them and you run with it. So, but further on the spell casting, I think the spell casting versatility that you're looking for might be coming in the Secrets of Magic book here in the future. But again, in the future, if you're not playing Pathfinder 2nd Edition, it doesn't matter. Do I believe that there should be some systems in place for most spells, in terms of like that true versatility you can have? Yes. I think they did what they felt was best in their design, and that's what they went with. I think Secrets of Magic is about to blow that out of the water, though, and not saying it's going to wipe the slate clean, but or at least we're going to see some changes. Now, in regards to your push, shove, and trip every turn, there are many builds that complement using skill actions over just striking within combat, and And that's not just with the fighter. That's the barbarian and I feel like there are builds that complement using skill actions as well, and again make you feel great when you use those skill actions because they complement your character. So anyway, shifting blame to the writers, like I spoke earlier in my response video, I criticized the design of some of Book 2's The Cult of Cinders within Age of Ashes Adventure Path, the infamous TPK locations, in that you should modify them if you feel the original design might be too difficult for your group or just too difficult in general. Also, in my first response video, I talk about how adventure paths are more like scripts the producers give the directors when it comes to making a movie. As long as the story is told, at least I feel like the director, or the GM in this case, can modify it to suit the performance or suit the experience that they want to provide for their group. Your group specifically, again, like I said, people can only come to their own conclusions based on the information presented to them at that time. Like I said, I hope, again, I apologize, for coming down really hard on the, first of all, on you. I apologize for coming really down hard on you. Please don't take that out of context. I apologize for scrutinizing you as intensely as I did. Oh my goodness, I can already see the comment section. So my apologies for that, and my apologies to your group and your players. I did not mean to make them seem like they were bad players. I don't feel like they're bad players. I think, if you're not having, I've had my share of RPGs where I'm just not having a good time, and I'm just like, yeah, this is, you're just ready to toss, throw in the towel and be done with it. And I think that's what it came down to. And you were trying to convey that, but I think I, either misunderstood it or, it was miscommunicated, and that's fine. Anyway, big topic here. Being forced versus feeling forced. Loved your analogy with the wife. Thought that was really funny. You do have a valid point of the two different definitions, and I love them. I feel like people are reacting or seeing this from the unintended or a somewhat skewed perspective. In my response video, I talked about how I talked about how we as people generally specialize themselves when they join the workforce. A degree or certificate is a way of declaring what you want to specialize in. So I'll give you a quick example in the IT field, which I used in my previous video as well. You have in the IT field, and there are more than I'm about to list, you have programmers. These are the people who actually, type out making programs, like they actually design the programs. You have web developers who, like it sounds like, they design websites or applications for websites. Then you have network engineers. They have nothing to do, they're usually looking at, just like, cabling and making sure that the bandwidth or the speed of the internet, and the infrastructure is sound and doing well, and always looking to improve those things. And you have database administrators for anyone who's interested in like Spotify. It's got to store all that music somewhere. Those are all databases. So whenever you click on, or even YouTube, right? All these videos and all that stuff, these are all stored on databases, and you have people who administrate those to make sure all the data is, unaltered, and it's, doesn't get corrupted or doesn't get deleted, without intent to do so, things like that. So, and these are all different specializations within the IT field. So, the point is that Pathfinder 2nd Edition allows you to design a character on a near 1-to-1 ratio of a concept that you have in mind for the character. Untested Gaming, right here, this guy, awesome YouTube channel. where he actually makes designs around characters that are, you know, fantasy characters or like well-known characters. Not saying that you can't do that in 5e, you know, but he, you know, makes them very, like, even to the point of just like super granularity sometimes. It's fun watch. I definitely suggest taking a look at some of his content. And again here, I'm not promoting that you carbon copy characters, but it feels in second edition less limited when you design those concepts for the character you have in mind, at least in my opinion. In practice, as I stated in my response, there will always be an optimal or meta build for every single class that is purely numbers based, and we all know that. But the class and feat decisions, I feel, should be made based on the theme of your character. So if it seems like the no-brainer pick, and I'm not going to go into the whole example you gave, but part of the example you gave with that ranger, you know, if you're thinking about a Legolas type, and you're bow specialist, you got the bow going. Well, of course, you should take hunted shot. Why not do what complements the design of the character, right? So again, I'll get into what I mean here. So if it seems like the no-brainer pick, then that is what you should thematically select. And in 5e, most of these decisions are made for you with a lot less to manage. Now, it isn't a bad thing if, you don't want to manage as much, because there's a lot less to manage in 5e, but that doesn't make it worse or better than second edition or second edition better. We're not, no. The difference here is the level of specialization a character can have in second edition. So when it comes to designing your character in second edition Pathfinder, at least I feel like truly the only limit is your imagination, and depending, obviously there are some limitations, but I feel like it's less limited, where in 5e you can only stretch your character's combat capabilities or your ideas of or your idea of their combat capabilities so far based on what is available with optional feats and the design of the subclasses for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. So, I agree with you, Cody, that the illusion of choice exists in feat collections, or as you've called it, the feat buckets, but the infinite design choices available that can be made for combat-focused characters, or one thing I feel that 5e kind of struggles with, skill-focused characters, or, like I said, in second edition Pathfinder, both if you're a freaking rogue or an investigator, because you can literally just do anything you want, makes up for the predestined feeling of 5th edition. So, as I said before, yes, as a GM, it is much more to know, remember, and master. But the joy my players have when their characters do well, because of the design they have for their character, and it happens to be that situation where their character can excel, and they feel that joy of excelling at what they built their character to excel at, I wouldn't trade that for the world. Now, with the Ranger comparison, your combat comparisons were extremely mechanically sound, and I'm not going to lie to you, I feel like in terms of not criticizing, but analyzing, martial classes from, I feel like it was a bit of a targeted, very specifically targeted mechanical issue, or and that's fine. Like I said, yes, you can argue numbers all day, and that's fine. And like I said, your numbers were mechanically sound, and that's the beauty. Is Pathfinder, because again, this goes back to what I said before. Is Pathfinder, it feels like it's gonna it feels punishing when it's like, well, if I don't do what I'm designed to do, then it's just not as good at all. Well, yeah. Again, if I as a a system administrator in my IT field go over and they want me to build a website. Well, I don't have experience building websites. Do I know kind of how, like, the general concept of web design? Sure, I had to take a class in it when I got my degree, but I am no web developer, And so when you go out of your way to do things that you intentionally, if you intentionally design your character a certain way, right? If you do something outside of that, you're not going to be as good at it. And I feel like that's a more realistic outcome, or more realistic outcomes come from those kind of situations where you're trying to do something that you're generally not good at. You should not be as good at it. Now, again, that's not for everybody, but okay, we move on. Why so many rules? Rules for this, rules for that. And I'm not trying to, poke. God forbid the GM role plays a request, because you start talking about balancing on the Mossy log, and then, or the Mossy log, and then the the request action, and all these things. And again, before I go into this, I'm not trying to put 5e on blast. Let me say that right now. This is my perspective of things. 5e's greatest strength is also its greatest weakness for those learning how to play a tabletop role-playing game. Now, I know, well, it's an easier game to play. What do you mean? I'm coming at you from the GM's perspective, or in Dungeons & Dragons, the DM's perspective. 5e places most of the decisions in your hands, and how checks are handled that are not covered by the standard or variant rules. So, why is that a problem? Well, I guarantee that I could go on one of the 10 plus 5e subreddits where DMs have made up a rule here, made up a rule there, or made a calling here, and it ends up having a serious impact on the game mechanically, or, mechanically. A player could become overpowered, or worse, underpowered. Or how many times have you read about GMs making a homebrew magic item and not realizing how strong it was? Ooh, crap. Well, can't just take that away now. Or, they feel, the saddest part is, that it's usually unintended they're not intending to alter the experience of the game as drastically. They just want to try and flavor some things up. But you can end up breaking the game. Now, as a GM, when you're learning to play a TTRPG, or tabletop role-playing game, having a system that is, at least in my opinion, designed to be loosey-goosey, like 5e, mistakes from new GMs are far more likely to occur. Again, that's not to say the game is bad, okay? Pathfinder 2nd Edition is new. And like one of the top comments said in my response video, that there's a saying in the art world. You have to learn the rules before you can know how to bend and break them. And I feel like this comment really sums up how I feel, or sums up why I play Pathfinder 2nd Edition over 5th Edition D&D. Pathfinder 2e is a game that is clearly defined and knows exactly what it wants to be, with some wiggle space. It's like when you go to different Applebee's restaurants. The interior is somewhat the same, although there's usually different, pictures hanging up, or, themed wallpaper, things like that. The menu, and it's not a carbon copy, the menu is mostly the same, but if you're really looking to go out of the way, get some variants, you can ask the bartenders for their drink concoctions, you can ask the servers if they do anything different, unique, and all that stuff. So your experience can vary from place to place, but you know what you're getting when you sit down at the table. And when you're new, I feel like that is there's safety in that. And in 5e, I feel like it's like visiting hole-in-the-wall restaurants. And let me be clear, we've all been to those hole-in-the-wall restaurants that are just like, So I'm just going to say it right now. Hole-in-the-wall restaurants, when you find a good one, you got that diamond in the rough, you got that diamond in the rough. The thing with hole-in-the-wall restaurants is the menu is rarely the same, right? They're focused and catered to a specific experience because the game is designed for you to be able to build all these, to build, and it's more malleable so you can have this finite, not necessarily finite, but to build around the exact experience you want, and for there's rules so you can like kind of bend things to the way you want them. And that's not a bad thing. That's just not for me. As you said, sorry, I had to go full circle on you, Cody. So I'm just going to wrap things up by saying, Cody, let's just agree that we like different games, and that's okay. And I look forward, because screw this coronavirus, we're going to have a Gen Con again. I haven't gone to a con in like 6 years. I'm going to share that beer with you, Cody. So tell me in the comments below if you've watched this video. Are you an IPA guy? I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.